Hello, I'm Sonia. Hi, welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Did you ever wonder how people manage to live in times when a jacket costs almost as much as you earn per month, and for a small sofa you need 2 months net salary? Maybe it's not that unfamiliar for you. Maybe you know exactly what I mean because you are also living in a country where everything is very expensive, and also our current situation makes life more difficult. But now I wanted to introduce you what I learned from my grandpa's budget planner from the communist era. Maybe some of my grandpa's tips might be also helpful for you. So let's start. So my grandpa was born in 1920s in Poland as a communist state. At the age of 30, it's also my age right now, almost, he was living as a single. Then he met my grandma. Shortly after, they got married, got children. And all this time, all these years, my grandpa was keeping a diary in which he wrote his every income and his expenses for about 30 consecutive years. So imagine that. In this episode, I will tell you what I have learned of value from his diary, and in another episode I will tell you how much he was earning in his 30s, then 40s, 50s, 60s, and etc. So the first thing I have learned from my grandpa is that it's really necessary to be aware of what you have, how much you earn, and what your expenses are. You only need a notebook and a pencil or a pen for 30 years. Just for your information, we have still in Poland PLN, Polish zloty. I will just say how it's really pronounced, złoty. And for today, about $1 or €1 is about 4.5 zloty. So my grandpa was writing down everything, even penny to penny, like a bulb he bought for 7 zloty, like a sewing thread for 5 zloty, or pins for 5 zloty as well. He also wrote down that a salt shaker cost 3 zlotych and toothpicks 4 zlotych. So even the smallest things he bought, he was writing them down. It is very important to have this awareness of how much you really spend every month, even on small things. And this budget planner is also a nice keepsake for grandchildren, so go for it. The next thing is the trend of repairing and not throwing away. So, as I'm looking on his notes right now, it was very popular to repair things instead of throwing them away. A radio repair, for example, cost 142 zlotych, and a new one 1,800 to 2,100 zlotych. Black slippers he bought cost 600 zlotych, and the repair of it 66 zlotych. A new TV cost 9,500 and the repair of the TV 1,500. It's also much, but still cheaper than buying something new. But to be honest, in his budget planner I saw this repair of a TV several times, once a year at least. So I don't know if the quality was so bad, or I don't know. A new sofa cost that times 4,200 zlotych, and the renovation of it 1,360 zlotych for the transportation. An alteration of an overcoat, for example, cost 350 zlotych, and a new one costs 900 to 1,900 zlotych. So it makes a difference. So even if the repair cost half as much as a new product, it was still very much worth it. Not only for our wallets, but also for the environment, as less was produced and less was thrown away. My mom also told me about refilling used markers. So you could go to a specialist who could do it for you. It was filled in with ink and you could use your markers for the next months as they would be new, but I don't know the prices for it. There's one more thing I want to mention from those days in 1960s, 70s. There was something like repatriation. This is also called meshing, and basically it was manual repairing of damaged socks, stockings and ties. It was made with a special needle with a little hook, and it was a very popular profession in Poland in those times after the Second World War. And because of high prices of stockings, it was much cheaper to repair them instead of buying new ones. They didn't differ from new ones after that, so this led to high demand for such services. I remember my mom talking about those times as she went to a repatriation service close their home. So, as I understood it right, this business was accepted by the government because it was one-person business and there was no danger to become rich with it. As you know, in communist states, it was impossible to have your own huge business because the government was controlling everything, the whole market. So yes, this was one of those businesses that many people could have. And for new stockings, you could spend 30 to 120 zlotych, and matching of them was for 18 zlotych. For sure, it depended on how huge this damage was, but 18 zlotych in comparison to 100 zlotych. Socks are thicker, so you don't have to have special needles for it, for repairing it. So you still can do it on your own, you can repair your socks. And now we are going to the next point, DIY. DIY whatever you can learn. Nowadays we have access to YouTube, we can Google everything, so it's worth to have a look at it, what you can learn and do it on your own. So a new coating for a duvet and pillows cost 590 zlotych. So my family preferred to buy white linen to repair the duvet and to fix it themselves. The white linen cost only 23 zlotych. So in comparison to 590, it was a nice saving. And after some years, my grandpa bought my grandma a sewing machine, so she could do almost everything on her own. This machine cost 2000 zlotych, so it was a huge expense, but looking for so many years, it was still worth it. I don't know if it's common in your home. I do it like my grandfather. If I want to paint my walls, my room, I do it on myself. I don't ask for a painter. Nowadays many people use professional painter services, but he never did, I never did, and you can save a lot of money if you do it on your own. But what I see is getting more and more popular nowadays is to buy a huge clay jar for pickling like cucumbers. And people prefer to make marmalade on their own. So you can save a lot of money and you can have it done exactly the way as you wish. Next point, never spend more than you earn. I know it sounds logical, but trust me, so many people spend a lot more than they even have. They just do the opposite. So from this budget planner for my grandpa, I have learned that you always can save money. It doesn't matter how much you earn. Even if everything in the world is so expensive, and even if you are earning less money, you still can save money. So my grandpa had always enough money left for his wedding, for his wife, for his 2 kids, for buying a flat, for buying all furniture in this flat. And his kids got everything they have needed, even much more. So that's the way to live, but how much to put aside of your money, I will talk about it in another video. Next point, don't buy what you don't need. My grandpa wasn't living a real, true, minimalistic life, but he bought only stuff that he really needed and what his family needed. Imagine, he bought for Christmas about 1/3 to even 1/2 of all products he usually bought during a whole year. And even Christmas was always pretty modest. So during a whole year, he didn't buy much. So if it comes to everyday stuff, he used to buy, for example, only 3 forks or 9 glasses instead of 12 in a pack. Next point, always get paid for overtime. I don't know where you are living, where you are working, but in my country it's usual to make some overtime at work. But let's be honest, why should I give my time away for nothing? Why? This is a very important why. I know maybe due to loyalty, you have a nice job, you have a nice boss, and everything is great and you want to give something more of you. I totally understand it. but still it's your time, it's your lifetime. So it's the most worth thing you have in your life. There are really companies that have in their contracts something like 10% of overtime is included in your salary. Imagine that. I really get it to sometimes work overtime, like 1 hour longer in 1 month or maybe 2 hours, but it shouldn't be standard every day to stay longer and to not get paid for it. 10% of your regular work were 4 hours a week if you work 40 hours. Full-time job, you know what I mean. So 4 hours you give away for nothing. My grandpa never did it. He also worked overtime for sure, but he got paid for it. And this is what I want for everyone, that if somebody works overtime, get also paid for it. Okay, so now it's half term and you have time to give thumbs up for this video, subscribe my channel if you are interested in financial topics, and then we will go on with the next tips or the next lessons learned. It's better to invest money on things that will last for years. Nowadays, maybe it's not that easy to buy stuff that you will like also in 20 years, because you have so many possibilities, so many things that you can choose of, and you can exchange your furniture every year. I don't know how often you do it, but some people change it very often. Back then, people didn't have so much choice on furniture, on things they could buy, and the prices were very high, as you already saw it. And you know, in every decade, there is a special style, something like style of clothes, of furniture, of decoration, of everything. So in those days of my grandpa's life, if you bought an item that you knew you will have it for a long, long time, almost unthinkable in today's life. Nowadays, people get very bored of everything in a very short period of time, and people buy new furniture every second year, maybe new decoration every 6 months, maybe, I don't know. My grandpa, for example, bought a carpet in the 1970s for 2,250 zloty, and it was still in a very good condition some years ago, probably still is, but my family gave it away. A sofa, for example, my grandpa bought, lasted more than 25 years, imagine that. A summer coat for 1,200 zloty was not only for one season, for one summer, but it was for many, 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 many years. I do it as well. When I buy one jacket, for example, I have it for at least 7 or maybe 10 years. I don't know which items were of good quality and which not, because a TV, as I mentioned before, had to be repaired every year. But for example, a hairdryer or Hoover were used several times a week for 30 years. I recently googled for brands of well-known communist era products and found the same colors of them that my family had until recently. So they have also used a gas stove, where the oven to bake a cake was fired by a match. So it's not like a modern ones when you just turn this, this thing, this switch for a temperature, for example. So we didn't have this control, but it worked very well. The food was delicious, even though the baking was by eye. It was like you would make a fireplace outside and cook and bake with this fire. It was basically the same procedure. Our current meat grinder, you know what it is. You put huge pieces of meat inside, and what comes out is a very soft meat in small pieces. This product is 45 years old so far, and it works perfectly. We use it twice a year, so we see no need to buy a newer, quieter one. And yes, just as I mentioned, it's still working. A washing machine my grandpa bought for 2,250 zloty, and also a fridge for a similar amount of money have also been used for 30 years. Although with such products that are plugged in all the time and are all the time working, like a fridge for example, I would be more carefully and I would replace them for a newer product, as old fridges can eat up a lot of electricity. But to get the right balance, between keeping furniture decorations for years and making sure they don't get boring quickly. You should choose timeless designs in neutral colors, like white, like gray, like beige, like black. You know what I mean? And the last lesson I have learned from my grandpa's budget planner is just to enjoy little things. So now we live in times where our relatives get on birthdays an iPhone and an iWatch together as a set, or a brand new PlayStation. But imagine if they don't get it, they get mad with you and you are not the favorite aunt or uncle anymore. I don't know where you're from, and if you know those ceremonies like, how is it called in English? First Communion, you know what it is? It's a Christian tradition, and every child at the age of 9 has it. It will be celebrated for the whole family. It's a huge celebration, and every relatives are invited to this party and they take with them huge gifts for the child. But we are living now in crazy times where it may happen that people who don't buy very huge gifts, very expensive gifts, are not welcomed at such parties. They are not even invited. Really, so crazy times where people only look at money, how much money you take with you, how much money you give, how much money you put in this envelope, how expensive those gifts are. This is just... And coming back into my grandpa's budget planner, he was invited to such ceremony, I think of his niece, and he brought only 40 złotych. And what happened then? Everyone was happy. So in those times, as my grandfather was 30, 40 years old, it was normal to buy modest gifts. So imagine, people were just enjoying time together. They were not looking at the gifts, at the price of those gifts. A normal life. And not only because there weren't so many things to buy on the market and because of prices which were very high, there was just no society of consumption as we know today. So they just enjoyed socks for 62 złotych, stockings for 118 złotych as birthday gifts. And for example, my grandpa also bought oranges for Women's Day for 40 złotych, or a chocolate, or a scarf, or tissues as a gift for Name's Day or birthday and so on. For Christmas, for example, he bought drinking glasses or shaving cream for 12 złotych, or a foam beater. I don't know if you know it from your grandma, from your relatives, that you can beat your foam with it. I will post a picture for you if you don't know what I mean. And for example, for a wedding day, he bought his sister an iron for 195 złotych, or a floral water for 76 złotych with a sprayer for his wife. So very modest, very practical gifts that everyone appreciated a lot. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye!